This is the box for the 2001 Silverado. There's a couple little imperfections in it here and there, but this box is pretty rough, so we didn't try to get them all out. There's a little bit of orange peel in it, kind of what the factories are doing now, I guess. My biggest concern was these body lines still working on the truck, and they look pretty good. Nothing stands out or looks crazy. We hit that back edge with some rhino liner and then painted that too, because it was all wore from dragging things in and out, so figured why not give it some protection. But in case you were wondering and saw the other videos, I did the work pretty close to the body lines. I'm trying to get a good angle so you can see that they may not be quite exactly how they were, but they're very aesthetically pleasing. I can see it by eye, but it's hard with the camera to show it. But they don't go all wobbly when you look down through them. And the thing is, usually you stand back here and you'll see if there's a little dip or something like that. So you can see how blocking it continuously across and such, it worked pretty good. And again, there's a little bug or something there. If you caught that little shiny spot, he's sitting on the surface, we'll knock him off. I don't know why he's so shiny looking. I think there was that spot there, it's a little dimple. There's a couple of those little spots that we probably should have sanded out. Now, if you were doing a hot rod or a muscle car, like a real high-end job, you'd probably put a thick coat of primer on. We didn't prime the whole entire box, just what we were working on. And this is a scuff and shoot, right? This is a 2001 Silverado, so this is just a work truck, so we're not going crazy with hours and time. All the metal work was done in like a day. All the rough work was done in a day, and then maybe 2/3 of a day to bring it to this. That includes a patch on both upper wheel arches, which I made. All four corners had cracks, and anyway, I ended up cutting them out, putting patches on all four corners. What do I mean by the four corners? See where the rods go down and there's a bolt? Well, they were all, two at the back were kind of broke out. And then at the front, no, the two front ones were broke out. At the back, they were rusted and kind of thin. So back here, we got a patch about 8 or 10 inches, goes across the bottom. And then on the driver's side, wonder if you can see the repair. Yeah, you can kind of see it there from there forward. That's a new piece, and it was about 6.5 inches. But no one would ever know that that was done. So that's the main thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 patches, steel patches in this box, because there was one. This side we fixed up, but was it the other side? I'm trying to remember. It was this side here. So there was something got hit here at one time and it rusted in behind the filler work. So there's a big plate in here right down into that shape. Again. And that patch was welded over to the top. And then I used the hammer with the little rounded pick and knocked it in, filled it out. And I mean, that's straight, straight, straight. The reflection is straight. There's nothing weird happening. So aside from maybe a touch of orange peel, I'm happy with this. This is plenty good. I used a different hardener in my first mix of clear. So we tried it. The second layer of clear and so I used it on the tailgate anyway, because I wasn't sure how that was going to go. But wow, that's, you can see in behind and through. Again, the orange peel on this, you can see pretty good detail in it. So it's about, On a scale 1 to 10, which is from, say, Kia to Corvette, this is like, I don't know, probably like if you went and bought a new truck today. Because I've worked on 14, 15, 17, stuff like that. They have a little bit of peel. So the technique I used here, where I set my gun, the pressures and all that, I set that to where I would run factory. Which on my particular gun, I set it at about 26 PSI. And then I narrow my fan down until I see the gauge bump. And it seems to throw it on a little quicker and clean. So my first coat, when I did the box, there was one spot on the driver's side where it wasn't quite enough to flatten out. But luckily on the second pass, you know, I just ran a little slower, which I did on the opposite side, and it worked out great. So yeah, I don't know, it's probably as good as anything you'd buy now. I mean, there's the odd little ding or dent or ripple, like, I mean, if they were really minor, like there's one, I don't know if you can see it, I'll try to catch it in the light. You can kind of see the light move, there you go. You can see that little tiny ding there. That one actually looks worse on camera than in real life. It's funny how cameras do that, and some things look worse, some things look better. But there's one that you can't see right there. There's one there. I'm sure there's others. There was one, oh, there was one up here somewhere. I can't find it, but I think when we were doing all the little spots, scratches, chip outs, blowouts, what I mean by blowout is sometimes what happens is you'll get a stone chip and the paint will fail, and it kind of like a chicken's foot. Up here was all messed up from a ding. There was a big dent here we fixed. Well, you can't see that at all, but you can see a little bit at that inner body line. See, there's kind of like a couple little dimples there where we had to knock that back in gently until this all went smooth. So you can see a wee bit of that, but the plastic cover comes down to that line, so that's going to be gone. So the few dents we left shouldn't be a problem at all. And again, 22-year-old work truck with 300,000 kilometers on it, right? So now the guy can drive this for looking awesome for probably 5 years, and before it rots as bad as it did, oh gosh, he'd probably get 10 out of it, but I imagine powertrain would go at some point. So yeah, that tailgate looks pretty good. Did all the back sides. I usually take these off. I didn't bother with this one. If the blue's on there, cool. If it chips, I don't think anyone's going to care. That's going to get all oiled up. This whole thing will be oil undercoated. We weren't going to bother with the back of the tailgate. Had a little extra paint, just enough to do it. And then clear coat that I mixed up that was with the wrong hardener, I only did one coat on the gate. And then at the end, when I ran out of hardener, I poured the rest of that back in the gun, just finished off the back, and I mean, you know, it's too bad that it's going to be all covered up. I prefer to leave them not covered up, but if I was redoing an old truck, I'd clean that all up as good as I could, and if it turned out this nice, which this one we didn't really clean up that good, I just painted it. But I don't know, I have a thing for if the box looks good, leave it alone. But he wants to use the truck and throw snowmobiles in it once in a while and whatnot. This is a lad who works out west. He's a pipeline guy, I believe, and construction for pipeline mainly. So I think he runs heavy equipment. But when he comes home to Ontario, this is his truck. So it might see a little bit of winter use. Generally not a whole lot. But whenever he's home, this is just his toy to drive around in. So anyway, my main thing is I was just trying to kind of, well, I guess we could call this an update or whatever too, but just try to show that the body lines, you have the little kick out, it's where it should be. Like, it doesn't seem to have any weird deviations other than what the factory would have had. So that's the main thing. So you can repair up into that line, stay below, but I did have to fill, I don't know if I did that in the video, but I did have to fill that top edge in and then block it long and straight and then come down over the round. And the key there is you can do the where you run a bead of tape, but then you'll get a sharp edge. So when you soften the edge on these, you got to be careful. If you do a little too much, it'll look like a wobble. So you got to kind of, you know, run the whole length of it when you do that soft edge. Just kind of looking, seemed with the camera there was a little bit of, but anyway, the nice thing with this is you could probably touch it, but it's going to settle down a lot. That's just the fuel door. And basically, to keep your metallic and stuff good, once you figure out your last coat of metallic, this is a base coat clear coat. When I finished this right here, as soon as I went across this, before I even went down below the line, now the way I started this, I went around the light, got that top corner, did that bottom section and the inner edge all around the light, and then I started at the bottom. I worked my way up, and when I got up to here, the first time I came about here, then about a third, and then the rest. The second time I came over to about here, because you want to move your metallics and not pile up and get a dark spot. Now, it worked out really good on this particular truck. Every once in a while, you're going to get a little bit of a dark spot or a tiger stripe. You don't want a whole bunch, but if you get one somewhere on a whole vehicle, that's not the end of the world. But I found by moving it, and I mean your flow technique and where you let off and on with the air, like you can't stop, you got to be already moving. That's the main thing. So this one went really, really well. I think this is going to really look good in the sun, which is great because the cab ended up being perfect. See, there's a tiny little ding right there. You can see that one there. Nothing too major. Most vehicles you buy on the lot have a couple of those somewhere anyway. But anyway, so I started down there, came up, and then I came to about here and went all the way up over. Then I went from here over to about here, and so on the second pass. I think that was the first pass. Second pass I came way out past, and then I did the whole front section. And because of how it worked out, I went from the top down at the front. But before I went down below the body line here, that's where I had my speed, where I was happy. As soon as I got to here, I came over here and ran that same speed and ran across. And I mean, I lost a little bit in the air, but don't care. Wanted to make sure that it looked good. I normally with metallics would have had that on there, but we're pressed for time. I didn't want to jam all around that and open close. And when you open close, you don't get it in the back. So by doing this the same speed, it'll be close enough no one will ever know it was done. And then I went from there down and finished it. It was still plenty wet for it to stick. It's just as shiny in the bottom as anywhere else. And again, like 9 out of 10 body shops, in my area at least, these vehicles go out of the body shop, they cut and buff them. I'm not cutting and buffing this. This is nice. I'm leaving it alone. I'll probably take a little bit of Mother's, what do you call it, Showtime. I spray it on a couple of cloths, rub it all down, and then wipe it all dry and, you know, give it a little bit of a sealant. And then I usually tell them wait a few weeks before you do whatever weird wax, wash, whatever. If you want to wax it, you can. I mean, the idea with the clear coat is it'll take the UV beating, so it shouldn't need to be all waxed up, but it is what it is. Not too bad. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers.